Hello and welcome to this PIR live event webinar brought to you by Partners in Research Canada. My name is Stacey Joyce and I will be your host. Please remember, if you're joining us live, that you can ask questions anytime throughout the webinar. No need to wait until the Q&A section. We'll just queue those up and ask them when it's time. And make sure you include where the question is coming from. So we want to be able to say a hello or who asked that question. And also, if you select all panelists and attendees in the to field in your chat. So it's something that includes attendees or everyone, depending on your version of the software. That way our other live viewers will be able to see what questions are coming from your classroom. So today's guest is Dr. Mohamed Atia. He is an assistant professor in the Department of Electronics at Carleton University. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Atia. I will let you take it from here.
Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for having me today. I'm very happy to be with you today to speak about a very exciting research area, very active, very hot topic right now, the autonomous vehicles. And I will start this discussion with some slides, and then afterward you will have the chance to chat and ask questions. So I will share my screen to show my slides. So now I hope everyone can see the slides. So I will speak today about the autonomous vehicles and the navigation systems. So we have actually some basic or main pillars for autonomous driving. The first one is the sensing, second one is localization or navigation. The third one is motion planning and control, and I will speak afterward about the technology that autonomous driving cars use for localization and navigation. So these are the pillars of the autonomous driving. I will speak about the sensing in this slides. What you can see here in this slide, this is actually a typical assembly of sensors most of the autonomous driving cars use to drive itself. What you can see here, this is a wide spectrum of sensors. What we can see here, we can see satellite systems, we can see camera or vision sensors, we can see inertial measurement units. We will speak about this. You can see radar or laser scanner signals, scanners, sensors. You can see also wheel encoders that measure how the wheel or the distance the wheel of the car moves. We use all the sensors to build a 3D map of the environment around the car. This is the first step. It is actually follows a natural way anybody wants to navigate in any place. You will start by perceiving the environment and build a local map of the surroundings. For example, in this slide, you see how the computer vision analyzes the scene and detect the drivable area, and also recognize what kind of objects or what kind of obstacles are existing in the scene at front of me. One of the objects could be a traffic sign, could be some speed information, some road information. Other information could be other vehicles or other obstacles that any car might see on the road. In this slide, we can see the LiDAR or the laser scanner, how the laser scanner and the radar sensors scan the area for obstacles, and also this is very important to avoid collisions and avoid accidents. So once we have a perception of the 3D environment around the car, we would like to localize ourselves. The car wants to know where it is right now. And this is simply done by maps and the global navigation satellite systems. and also the inertial measurement unit. The inertial measurement unit measure how the car is moving, how the 3D motion or the 3D motion of the car changes with time. And the satellite system provides you with a location. We will speak in more details about how the satellite system localizes the car. And using the maps, we can localize ourselves, not only the position, but also the orientation of the car platform. Once we know our location, and obviously we will have some sort of a destination information, we can plan a route. And this is what we mean by the motion planning. Once we have this route, we would like to drive or control the car to move or to follow this track. So in this last pillar of the autonomous driving, the control pillar, we would like to control the car to keep it moving on the specified track, as you can see here in these slides. And I think you are familiar with this kind of motion planning in our regular navigation device like GPS inside our cars. They are doing something similar to this. So now I will speak about the localization or the positioning technology. And actually this is a specialization area that I'm working on in this big ecosystem of driving or self-driving cars. So how do cars calculate the location? So this is the question that we will start from. And this is simply done by having some idea about some landmarks or some features in the environment. What you can see here, we have 3 landmarks or 3 features in the environment. If I can measure the distance between the car and any of these features, for example, for landmark number 1, if I can know the distance between the car and landmark number 1, I must be on any location or anywhere along this circle that you can see on the slide. Similarly, if we have the distance, if we have an estimation of the distance between the car and the second landmark, we are on the circle highlighted around the landmark number 2. What you can see here, we have a couple of intersections. So we still have some sort of ambiguity. We do not know exactly where are we right now. That's why we need a third feature like this. So if we know the distance to landmark number 3, we have another circle, and the intersection of all the circles will give me my location here. And this is simply what the GPS or what the satellite navigation systems do to localize or to calculate the location of the car. And this process is known as, or this method is known as the trilateration. So this is the trilateration concept. So what I have explained so far was in 2D. So this is 2-dimensional explanation. What we see here in this slide, the same concept, the trilateration concept, applied in the 3D. So instead of having a circle, we will have a sphere, and the intersection of these spheres will give you, or will calculate the location of the car. So to further elaborate this, I will show a quick video about this process.
The Global Positioning System, or GPS, is a network of 30 satellites orbiting about 20,000 kilometers above the Earth. And they send out continuous signals that tell where the satellite is and at what time the signal was sent. What the receiver does, the receiver takes that signal, decodes it, and calculates how far away the receiver is from the satellite. By comparing 4 different satellite signals, the receiver is able to determine exactly where it is. So what we're going to do here is do a quick little demo of that on a world map. And because we can't really do the 3-dimensional version of it, what we're going to do is kind of pretend the world is flat. It involves, the mathematics involves just using Pythagorean theorem, and other than that, it's just working with scales on a map. So let's say I get a signal, I'm somewhere in Europe, and I get a signal from a satellite that says, I am 20,000 kilometers above Stockholm, and it takes about 68.27 milliseconds for the signal to travel to you. So where could you possibly be? Well, by using a little bit of Pythagorean theorem, I can calculate that. I can figure out, okay, so the satellite is 20,000 kilometers above, and the signal is going to travel along the hypotenuse of the triangle. So I can calculate how far across on my map I would be. And so when I do that, I get a value, and then according to my map, I have to scale it. So I start at Stockholm, which is right here, and I draw a circle. And my circle goes out, and basically what this says is that anywhere along that circle I could be.
So now this is the first circle. We have one measurement or one distance measurement to one satellite. We can draw a circle and we are anywhere along this circle. If I have distance measurement from more than one satellite, I will have more circles and I will be able to localize myself. I will just jump this couple of circles and I will show you the final result of this. So this is actually the second circle. And then this is the third circle. And obviously my location is here at the intersection of the three circles in the image, as you can see. So we'll skip that. And this was the last slide in our presentation. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you for that explanation. We already have a few questions that have come in, but if you haven't asked your question yet, make sure that you keep them coming. So first, we have a question from Rutland Seniors in Mr. Horning's class, wondering if the sensors can distinguish humans versus other obstacles.
That's a very good question, actually, and this is a big topic of research. Actually, the way the signals are reflecting from different objects, we can use is different, and we can use these differences in the way of the reflection of the signals to distinguish between different objects. But obviously, it is not that simple. Some of the objects might be interfering or might be reflecting the signals in the same way our body or human body reflect. So that's why I'm saying this is a big research topic. But yes, there is some methods and some algorithms to distinguish between human body or human objects and non-human objects.
Right. Next, we have a question from the grade 12 class at Wexford CSA, wondering if driving could be phased out. So I assume they mean human drivers. Could it even become illegal?
Actually, what I expect in the future, when the technology is mature and adopted, I don't think human driving is going to be allowed even at this time.
So basically, yes, you think it might be illegal at some point
Exactly.
once this technology is developed. Next, we have a question from the grade 9s and 10s in Brighton, Ontario. Do you think that costs of self-driving will be such that it will be in all cars? And if so, when? So it sounds like your answer is yes, but maybe when is the more interesting part of this one?
Actually, that's also a very good question. For the expenses, right now the expenses is very high. I will give you an example about the navigation system used in the experiments that you see on the roads. The expenses of the navigation system used for current self-driving cars ranges from $20,000 to $40,000. It is even double the normal price of a car. However, big companies are pushing very hard to get the sensor costs down to make the self-driving cars affordable. When this is going to be done, I don't have a specific answer for this. But for example, to my knowledge, the laser scanner, which is actually one of the most expensive sensors in the sensors assembly, there are big companies working on reducing the expense or the cost of the laser scanner. We cannot know precisely when this sensor is going to be ready, but it's going to come for sure. Technology is rapidly developing, and this is going to come for sure. How many years until we see this? I really don't know precisely.
It's always difficult to tell. Next, we have an interesting question from Angeline, who is a grade 6 student at Tiffany Hills Elementary School, wondering why were self-driving cars even invented, and how do they help humans?
Well, actually, what the self-driving car is doing is simulating the behavior of the human driver, and by simulating this or by learning the human driver behavior, we will eliminate the possibility of human errors and human mistakes. By having the computer take control of the driving, computers do not feel exhausted, computers do not feel tired, computers follow instructions, follow the traffic rules, follow the regulations. So self-driving car is important to eliminate the human error and the human mistakes.
Right. And that's interesting that you discuss mistakes as one of the reasons for automating these vehicles, because we had a few questions coming in about what if there is a car crash, or more specifically, if there is an accident, who is at fault if it involves self-driving vehicles?
This is also a very interesting question, and actually self-driving car in general is a relatively new area, comes with several complications, several new questions, several new business models. And this question is very important, and it is related to liability, let's say liability. So who's going to be liable for the damages, or who's going to cover the damages for a collision or an accident? Actually, what's going to happen, and this is also some analysis and expectation, it is not something for sure. What's going to happen after the technology is matured and adopted, the rate of the accidents is going to be much less. And because the rate of the accidents and the rate of the collisions is going to be much less, who's going to be responsible for covering the damage is the company who developed the software which drives the car. And what makes this expenses affordable for the companies is the fact that if the technology is mature and the technology has been adopted widely, it is expected that the number of accidents is going to be much less, and consequently the number of, or the money needed to cover the damages for the accidents is going to be much less, and that's why it's going to be affordable for the companies who develop the software to be responsible for these expenses.
Right. Now, this is my favorite kind of question period, because these are really great questions and there are so many that I'm having trouble choosing. So I'm going to go next to the grades 6, 7s, and 8s at Spencer Avenue. They're wondering if this technology of automation and everything you explained with location and sensing, could it be used in other machines or vehicles, and is it similar for airplanes?
In fact, we are working on developing the same technology for unmanned aerial vehicles. The problem is more challenging due to several factors. The biggest challenge here for the aerial vehicles or for the airplane is the power. The cars can be recharged. It is continuously recharging. We have a very strong, bulky battery that can support us with power for several hours. We don't have this luxury for aerial vehicles or for airplane. So we are working on this. Several researchers are working on optimizing the technology to deal with the constraints that we have in aerial vehicles. But definitely, yes, the same technology, the same self-driving cars technology can be applied for aerial vehicles as well.
I guess you did explain that those circles are in reality spheres. So if something is not on the ground, you can also locate its height off the ground, I assume.
Actually, the intersection of these four spheres, this can be on the ground, this can be on the air, it can be anywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
So that brings us to some other questions that discuss when things are not working optimally anymore. So we have a question from our grade 12s at Wexford wondering, what if the sensors are obstructed or broken? That's
also a very good question. The self-driving system has several levels, and if you hear about the levels for the autonomous driving, we have basically five levels. What we are working on, or what most companies are working toward right now, is level 3 and level 4 autonomous driving levels. Level 3 and level 4 mandate the requirement of having the human operator or the human driver ready to take over if something happened with the sensors. It is expected that this is going to be a phase or a stage of the technology. Once the sensors technology is very matured and the number of errors is insignificant, we will go to the level 5, at which we don't have even a driving wheel and we don't have any human interference. But this is not going to be like a sudden jump. As I explained, it will go through level 3 and level 4, at which the human operator or the human driver is ready to take over once we have any errors with the sensors.
Right. That seems like such a foreign concept right now.
Yeah.
So confident in the technology at some point, and not right away, as you said, that there
Yes.
would not even be a steering wheel to take over. So that's kind of exciting.
And I believe it's a matter of time.
Absolutely.
So just to have the technology matured and developed enough.
So similar to that, we had a question from the grades 11 and 12 students in Amherstburg, Ontario, wondering if there are any issues with loss of satellite signals for determining location and navigation, and is weather an issue at all?
These are two separate questions, I would say. The first question is related to the loss of the signal of the satellite. Actually, remember in my slides, I showed some other sensors, the wheel encoder sensors and the IMU, which is the inertial measurement unit. Actually, these are complementary sensors that can bridge the GPS outages or the loss of the GPS signal satellites. This is very common. It happens in areas like under bridges, in tunnels, urban canyons. So technology, of course, considers this case by bridging these gaps or bridging this GPS satellite signal loss using inertial measurement unit and wheel encoders and also laser scanners. Laser scanners can be used not only for object detection or obstacles recognition, it can also be used for localization if we have some sort of maps. So if we have some sort of maps, what the laser scanner can see at a certain time can be correlated with a pre-built or a predefined map, and the location and the orientation of the car can be estimated. And this is actually a very common localization technique for cars. So what I want to say here is the localization does not depend only on satellites. Satellites is very important, of course, but we have so many other ways to perform the localization. For the second question, which is a very important question, for the snow, what if we have some snow? What if we have fogs? What if the environment is not prepared for this laser scanner to work or for this sensors to work? Actually, the topic of the sensor fusion try to address this kind of problems. And the concept is very simple. We do not depend on one source of information. We do not depend on one sensor. For example, if the laser scanner cannot work due to the snow, for example, and actually the reason of this problems with the laser scanner in the snow is if we have white color everywhere in the scene, the laser scanner and also the camera or the vision sensors cannot find features to recognize where are we. And in order to bridge this limitations or to handle these errors, again, we are using inertial measurements unit, the wheel encoders, and also the GPS signals. Hopefully the GPS signals is going to be available during this time.
It's very interesting because that scene you describe, say if there's snow cover and especially the camera unit can't distinguish the features,
Yeah.
That's a problem we deal with as humans too. This isn't
exactly
a problem with autonomous vehicles. So I do want to move along to a question from Mr. Horning's class, wondering if hacking the controls or the sensors is possible. Should that be a concern?
Of course, it is a concern, and any connected device is vulnerable for this kind of security breach and security issues. Companies are working on this, and similar to your smartphone, the smartphone, we have very common operating systems for the smartphones, the iOS for Apple, for example, and the Android for other smartphones. These operating systems are designed specifically for smartphones. Similar to this, we are currently seeing operating systems, computer operating systems, designed specifically for cars. And there are so many certifications and industry standards that this operating system must go through until it is certified and it is allowed to be installed on a self-driving cars. But again, no system is 100% perfect. We still have this kind of risk. And actually, we have this risk everywhere, not only in the driving, self-driving cars.
Right. And before we finish off for the day, we are in our last few minutes now. We've had a couple questions come in from a grade 12 class at Wexford and our grade 9s and 10s in Brighton, wondering what degrees or programs or career paths that these students could pursue if they're interested in participating in this kind of research.
This is also a very good question. Actually, the self-driving cars, I see it as an ecosystem with different aspects, with different technologies. One of the technologies, the basic technologies that support the self-driving car is embedded systems. So embedded systems is the research field or the field that concerns how to process measurements, how to process sensor information in real time, and how to produce signals to control the car in real time. This is a very big area that takes control of the self-driving cars. Obviously, there are other areas related to machine vision and image processing. So machine vision and image processing is not only about how to process the pixels or how to process the raw information from images, but also how to interpret this information into an understandable format. This will take us to artificial intelligence and machine learning. So I have mentioned so far three main areas: embedded systems, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and also computer vision and image processing. This is what is active and present in my mind right now. But again, self-driving cars is a very big ecosystem. It has a lot of issues. It has a lot of areas for research. And for sure, you might see other areas and you might see other disciplines that also support the self-driving cars ecosystem.
Interesting. And I think as these things do take off, we could see in the questions from the students, some of which we were able to get to, some we weren't able to get to, that were focused on the legalities and moralities surrounding self-driving cars. So even beyond the technology, I foresee a lot of legal work and sort of ethical work that will be done as well.
Sure, absolutely.
Well, that is all the time we have for today. Is there anything at all that you would like our students to know before you sign off? Any little nugget of wisdom for them today?
Do what you love. So if you feel excited about a problem, if you feel excited about a research field, don't waste your time doing other things. Try to focus and try to excel in what you love.
Wonderful advice. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
Next week or later this week rather, on PIR Live Event, we're doing a special professional development session for teachers who might want to incorporate coding or computational thinking throughout the year, as we just finished up our Hour of Code and Computer Science Education Week. And also we will have a new set of live event webinars coming to you in the new year after our holiday break. So thanks for tuning in today, and I hope you all have a wonderful holiday. Bye now.
Bye.